Hello, my friends. This is diys-by-dar, and I wanted to get a few videos in before I get my second hip replaced. Fun, fun. I had a friend who likes to rock hound, and she had a group of rocks that she wanted me to help identify, which I did the best I could, and we'll see what she thinks about what I said. Then she also said if you see any that you'd like to try to wrap, go for it. So I did one of them, which is a conglomerate stone. Basically, it's made up of two different types of stone material, but I really couldn't figure out what the two different types were. On that one, it really had an odd shape. And yes, you can wrap stones that are really oddly shaped, but they take a toll on your fingertips and your nails, and that's why I never have any nails. So I went ahead and I did get this one wrapped, but I also, to help bring out some of the character in it, I used a product, a Dixie Belle gilding wax. This is their old formula. They do have a new formula that's out, and I thought to myself, why not go ahead and use some of this up on some of my jewelry projects. And on this particular stone, what I did is I used a teal color to kind of go into the background, and then I went and wiped it all off, so basically more like a stain, so the matrix stone would show up a bit better. And then on the little bubbles, that's the best I can describe them, I used a little bit of the hammered copper just to bring that up. So here is just a plain piece of glass that I used the gilding wax on, and that's what it looked like before, and this is what it looks like now after I went ahead and put that on. Nope, not coming off. I wanted to see if it would rub off on my finger, and it does not. It's been sitting there for a couple days. Now, a couple other rocks, and I am going to wrap one of these for her, were these two pinkish colored ones. And these particular rocks, I believe, are granite, and you can see the difference in the sheen. Even if I tip that one over, you'll see it's very much like that one. But the way that this stone should be worn is this way, because that's where the flattest portion is, that's going to fall along the neckline and is going to be the easiest to wrap. How I shined this stone up was, I went ahead and used some of my product for shining almost anything you can think of up, called Zam, and I went ahead and just used my buffer. I have a 3M jewel tool, which you can use multiple different heads on that, and just put some of the Zam right on this rock, and I used my buffing portion and I buffed it up. So this is going to be the front of the stone, and it's buffed up, and I'm going to show you how to wrap a really odd shaped stone, as this one was. And turn it over and you can kind of see. You just have to kind of go with what that stone is telling you for the way it wants to be wrapped, and that's why I chose to use 4 bands on it. Because of the different ups and downs that the stone had, and I had to kind of go along, because this stone is in there solid. It's it would really take something to pop it out of there. To me, it looks like a little turtle shell. So all right, I'll get the wire ready, and we'll go ahead and wire wrap this one. Okay, I have the wire here, and once again, I really, when it comes to wire wrapping rocks for jewelry, I typically don't measure, but what I do is I take the rock and I just kind of like roll it down the line and roughly look, and about 5 times roll it down, and you should have enough. And you know, you look at it and kind of figure out how much wire am I going to need to go up around this wire, or around this rock, and how much excess am I going to have, because I'm going to end up cutting it off anyway. So I have 4 pieces of 21 gauge copper wire that's square. The reason I'm going with square wire is because this rock is round, and now I've made it kind of slick by shining it, and the square wire will hold on that surface a lot better than a round wire. You can use a round wire, I've done it a lot, but you really have to tighten that stone down in there because it does have a tendency to move a little bit more when you got a round wire. Now I have a about the same length piece of a half round wire in an 18 gauge copper, and this is solid copper wire, and I'm going to use this for banding. So from there, I'm just going to set the rock aside, and we're going to get all of our wires ready. Now, work hardening your wire. This is soft wire, by the way. You can get wire different levels of hardnesses. Soft, hard, medium. This is soft wire, but you can work harden any wire actually. If it's a pure wire, you can work harden it by just taking and rubbing it through. This is a Fab Luster cleaning cloth, which takes tarnish off, and you can just run that your metal right through that and makes it nice and straight. Cleans it off a bit, and it also work hardens it a little bit, so it's going to be a little bit harder, but you're still going to have that softness for the manipulation that you need to go around a different sized rock. So we're going to set them down, and now I'm going to just go ahead and get a couple pieces of tape, painter's tape, and you're just going to take and go kind of out there on the end and just tape them off. And you're going to want them to be all the same direction. Get them all nice and tight. And then my other little piece of tape is missing. So I'm going to go get that tape and be right back. Alright, I have my other piece of tape on, and when I'm looking at how I want to approach this stone and I compare it to the other one that I did, this other one had a little bit of a point at the bottom. So, you know, I used that to my advantage, and they have points on the bottom. Then you can leave the bottom open and let the stone rest in there and then put the wire around it. This one, if you open the bottom on it, because of the shape that it is, it's thick, big, and round, it would just fall through. So my banding is going to have to start in the center of this stone at the bottom. So that makes that easy for a start point, because all I'm going to do is I'm going to go for the center of this wire, and that's where my bottom is going to set. So the reason this wire is half round is because the round side is going to go out and the other side is going to go down, so it's flat against flat. And it doesn't really matter. You can let a bit stick out. You got a big enough piece there. Just take, in the first wraps that you make, just wrap it around and just lightly tamp it down. And then you're going to wrap it around again and try to keep it as straight as you can. It's not a big deal if they get crooked, but try to keep them as straight as you can. Every time you go around, just tamp it down a little bit. Tamp it down a little bit. And then you just keep going around until you think you got the appropriate amount of base for that stone to sit on. So we'll speed it up. You can see it's still a little bit movable, and that's okay. You want it movable sometimes because you might not be quite in the spot you want, but we're going to want the back side of where you cut to the back of the stone, so it doesn't get lifted up, or when somebody's wearing it, it doesn't poke them. So we'll put that one down there. You have to kind of anticipate how much you're going to cut off here. Yeah, it looks like I probably did enough to have it come about into the middle of that wire. And we still can move it, so all right, we're gonna hold it up to that stone. I think probably trying to find the middle. Just eyeball it. It's really okay. There's no rules here. That looks probably pretty good right there. That's going to give me enough. Hopefully, I don't have too much down there at the bottom. I may, but we'll see what we end up with, because I have 4 wires in this one because this stone was so thick. So you can just tamp it down a little bit more. And from there, just take your finger and just start to bend it. And you know that stone is going to be setting in it, and see what type of bottom base you got here. All right, from there, what I would do for this stone, because I'll open it up right after that banding, so it will take the girth, I guess, of this stone right here at the bottom where it's really thick, and then I'll probably put a band here and a band here, and that'll be the only banding that I will do until we get up to the top. So I'm just going to be quiet, let you enjoy the music. Okay, sometimes what you can do, and it does help a bit, if you can kind of envision where you might want to put that other band, you can take a Sharpie and just mark it on the wire to help you. So I think I'm probably going to put one band here. You have to anticipate how much you're going to be open in this to accommodate this big stone. And then probably we'll put the other band, just because I got that tape there. And it doesn't matter. When you have a stone that is just so many different shapes, you just try to work with that stone and get it in that wire the best way that it'll go in there. So, all right. Now this is where you just kind of grab them wires and open them up. Gonna fan them out. And since these are movable a little bit, they will allow for you to open them as much as you need without constricting down on it to give you what you need to get around that stone. I'm gonna probably, and then see, of course, then that's gonna stop moving. I'm gonna probably size it up here and see. This is where a lot of the pressing starts and the forming starts and the shaping starts. Because you want to be able to get around that stone, hold it kind of firm and tight. And it isn't going to be a straight shot. Here, I'm looking at the back of the stone. Doesn't look too bad. You know, if you need to shift it, shift it. Just pressing down on the bottom a little bit. That one's getting a little bit too far up there. Well, I guess that's where it might want to stay. I'm going to pop that stone out, take the tape off, and continue to manipulate that wire so it goes around that rock. Okay, this is what we have for wires left up at the top, and you have to decide if you want to do a heavier bale like this one where you just make them all round and it's just one loop, or if you want to do a couple singles. I'm using 20 gauge wire, so or I'm sorry, 21 gauge wire, and I probably will go ahead and I'll use 2. That'll just give this rock, it's a little bit bigger, some more oomph. See if I can split that just a little bit up at the top. You know, always done carefully so you don't really hit your stone in any way and damage it. You can use like an old knife as well. I got that band way up there at that top. That's probably really not where I wanted it, but I'm gonna make it work for me where it's at. The stone at this point is getting in there pretty good, and I just have to press it down a bit and she should be good in there and not move. All right, we're almost there. We're almost there. You got to muscle the wire around to where you want it and the way you want that stone to hang. I can separate these each way. Somebody decides they want to put them together after they get it. That's their prerogative. Now, I have 3 wires basically left to do some embellishments and to kind of cover up all the work and the funkiness that we got below there. And I think what I need to do is I still have a little bit of an open spot back down there, so I need to go ahead and pull them one more time up under there. So now I'm going to have all three of them wires over here on this side to do something with. And at this point, if I can find my wire twister, with the square wire, you can just take and put this little tool on the end and twist it, and it can make the front of that rock really look different. So I'm gonna go find that tool, and we'll be back to do that. I found it. It is quite interesting because sometimes my husband does ask me to use some of my tools, and so tit for tat. All right, it's just a turning tool, and you put that wire in there. Well, and you tighten it down, and then you can just twist it, and it's going to give you that twisted look. So I like the configuration with the 3, because then that can give you 3 different types of circles. And I probably will take this one and lay it right up here. And you have to anticipate how much am I going to have to cut off to let that curl kind of lay up there on that side just right. So I'm going to say probably right about there. I am going to take, these still have some rubber left on them from dipping them, which helps so you don't mar your wire. And I'll put that curl and set it right in there, which looks pretty good. Now this next one I'm probably going to want to curl in this way, and I'm just going to pull this one out of the way for a sec. I'm going to have to cut this wire off. Where do I want that curl to sit? It would look good if I could set it right there, but it'll probably be a little bit too long and get snagged on stuff, so I'm going to cut it right there. Curl it right there. And then I've got this last little one. Of course, that's why I like 3. You can go in the different direction on each one. That one doesn't really need any cutting, so we'll keep it the way it is. And let's just tuck it down right there. All right, check your bail. This will be a nice big open bail. Make sure your wires are all pushed down. Yeah, so you see this odd shaped rock is not moving anywhere. It's good to go on here. I could find myself a cord here to put it on. We will see what it looks like for my friend Kim. Here we go. And I think that one's ready to go to my friend.